My name's Larry Spahn. I'm the current president of Heart of the Heartlands, and we're here today at the Corona Museum and the Webb Educational Center. It's behind me. This is a 1023 locomotive. This engine was built in 1906 by the Alco Locomotive Company, and it was bought for and used by the Kansas City Southern. The number on it right now is 1023, but when it was originally built, it was 488. It was built as a 280, but in 1926 they did a lot of modifications to this engine, and it's a 080. They used it a lot for switching at that time. And it spent most of its time in Kansas City and finished up around the end of steam. And we were fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. The Kansas City Southern donated this to the city of Pittsburgh in 1956. It was, they built a track in the Schlanger Park, and it sat there until 2010, and it was really getting ready to turn over. It had been vandalized. It was pretty bad shape, and the city, they were exploring ways to what they could do with it, and finally decided maybe that they should consider donating it to someone else, and Heart of the Heartlands stepped up, and we moved it over here, and now it's in its permanent home. It's underneath a shelter built by
Bill Forrest.
That's his name.
Forest Erectors of Frontenac built this covering for the 1023.
He also built the buildings and stuff over here too. But
oh, he built the museum buildings?
Some of them. One of them for sure.
I see. He built a shop for me. He built a lot of stuff around. He built the rectory at St. Bridget's there in Scammon. He lived in Scammon. He built the little restaurant across from the Josie's.
He's a great guy. He is missed. We're standing along the drive wheels. There's 8 of them. The steam engine itself is right there. That's where the steam goes to make these wheels move. All this other stuff that you see around here is for that right there. That is the steam engine.
Oh, it's to make this work. What are these things up here?
These are air pumps. They pump air for the engine brakes and the train brakes. They're steam operated, and you can see the brake shoes and the springs on the wheels.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to look up above on top. You see.
Well, wait a minute. I want to show that. You said the springs. There's the springs up above that wheel.
Yes.
And there's 4 of those big ones right here in this vicinity. And I haven't figured out how the rest of it's supported.
Oh, it's quite a deal. Up on top, back here, that first dome is a steam dome. That's where the steam is collected, and there's a big valve operated by the engineer that lets the steam come down to these engines. These other 2 are sand domes. They put sand down to the tracks. You can see where those pipes go, and it dribbles sand in front of them to get traction when they need it. And naturally the smokestack.
Well, I'd never heard of anything like that. You say that those 2 front bells, or that front...
Yeah, those 2 domes behind the smokestack, those are sand domes. They're filled with sand.
And they carry that right up there all the time. If there's a problem with traction, they have a way to throw it on the track down here.
Right. You can see those pipes coming out and where they come down.
Uh-huh.
That dribble
That's
sand.
right. It comes right down in front of the wheel there.
There you go.
I'd never heard of that. Of course, I've seen it on trucks, but I didn't know they had them on these locomotives.
And they would fill them when they were into the yards and stuff. They kept them full. This big pipe right here is what puts the water into the boiler. That's a steam injector. It's kind of neat the way they work, and we won't get into that, but it injects water into that steam dome, and it
Boy, I know the kids love this. Look at this. Over there at the park, they used to climb up these ladders and walk all over this thing.
Yeah, we discourage that. We don't want anybody climbing on it. We don't want anybody falling off.
Yeah, it's
and the flags up there, you see there's white flags on it and green flags. The color of the flag indicated whether it was an extra or a different section of the same train. Like you might have 3 trains with the same number. And
that light back there, that's the main light is on right now. And when it was operating with that light up behind those numbers, you could see that 1023 on that glass there.
Yes, and that little light right by the stack, That was for the fireman to see the color of his smoke at night. There was a little light that shined on that. He could see the color of smoke so he could adjust his flow to oil or coal into the boiler.
Yeah, that's interesting. Inside there operate where the engineer and the boilermaker?
Well, the engineer and fireman.
The fireman, they called him, huh?
And
Now, what's this two down here for? What do they do?
that just blows down. That's you'll see every now and then when you see a whoosh,
Is that a pressure release? Or is
pressure
that,
release.
Yeah.
And you can see this is the brake cylinder that operates the brakes to the locomotive.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
the other pipe, this comes in from the tender, takes water up to the boiler.
All right. Well, why don't we go on upstairs? Or you want to do those other back wheels first?
Well, let's take a look at the tender. The tender is a car behind the engine. It carries water and fuel.
Okay.
When this was built in 1906, that hopper where those tanks are was full of coal. It was coal-fired at that time.
Uh-huh.
And it was changed over in 1926 to oil firing, which made it a lot easier on the firemen. And that little house behind is where the head brakeman sat. There wasn't any room in the cab for him, so he did the switching at the front of the train. The caboose crews, they did at the back, and it was quite a way of life.
And you were telling them about the springs. They'd replace the
Yeah,
what I call leaf springs. They replaced them with these coil springs.
Right. This is an old. They converted the spring arrangements. You can see the coils. Used to have leaf springs. And you can see they adjusted it real novelly with wood.
Uh-huh.
And this is the bearing. This is a brass bearing.
It's inside a door there that's closed when it's operating.
Right, and these would catch on fire if they got too worn or they ran out of oil. But that's a brass bushing to top, one at the bottom. This is packing down here that held your oil.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Let's see this. This ought to be entertaining.
Yeah, no joke. I could have fell down.
Yeah, well, make a better video, I guess.
Oh, heck yeah. And you can see the capacity, 5,000 gallons of water. And there's another light. That's for backing up. That's it's a backup light, tail light, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can see the doghouse for the brakeman. This is a Kansas City Southern section car. It was restored by one of our members and some of his friends, Joe Murphy.
Section car, that's for inspecting track.
Yeah, and they go out and work on the track, replace
What's
ties.
that thing?
This is a water hopper. This was water cooled, but it just boiled the water off, kind of like the old Model Ts.
Oh, okay. So you just put water in it once in a while.
Yeah.
It used water.
Yeah, it did boil it away, and you'd put more water in it.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And this is a little information.
Here's this. Yeah, there you go. Locomotive donated by Kansas City Southern Railroad with the assistance of W.B. Johnson, Superintendent of Machinery, Kansas City Southern Railroad.
W.B. Johnson, his name was Bus, was K. Lynn Webb's father. And he was the head of all the maintenance in the shops in Pittsburgh. And he was real instrumental in saving this engine. And he got the city to buy it for $1, and they put it in Schlanger Park in 1956, and it sat there till 2010. And we moved it over here and finally got it here about 2012.
All right, so this is the tender back here, and this chain. Tell me about this chain here. That's a heavy, heavy chain.
Yes, farmer, he stopped in here and wanted to know if he wanted, they call it a caboose chain, engine chain, but they used it to pull or lash cars together or what. And one old engineer, he said, that's good for one trip. Said, by the time you got done carrying it around, no one could carry it back, so they just left it laying in the ditch. But I think he was just pulling my leg. This thing right up here is a re-railer. The cars that derail, they'd had to carry that back too. They'd spike it to the tie, and they could literally jump these cars back up on the steel rail. So that's a re-railer.
Well, I can hardly picture that.
Oh, everything was big, heavy, and dangerous.
Oh, they'd use pry bars along with that.
Well, no, they'd put this down, and they'd go right next to the rail, and they'd, you know, spike it down.
Uh-huh.
And then they'd move the train back, and
it would move the train up off the ground so that it'd come back up on the track. If it was just down inside or something.
Yep. And I always thought this was kind of neat. Don't drink the water. And pretty soon we'll go up in the cab and take a look at the back head and the gauges and the things that two men ran this engine.
Now this is the. Is that the reverse?
No, this is a brake cylinder. This is for engine brakes.
And this is run on air.
Yes, it was activated by air, those big pumps.
Uh-huh.
And the engineer did that up there.
Okay. Good enough. What's that there? Is that a light on there? No, it's just, but it's smooth.
It's another small air tank.
Oh, okay. So this is the brakes, and over here, this is the reverse here, this one up here?
Yes, this is operated by a lever in the cab. What it'd do, it would reverse the engine, reverse the steam flow, and get the wheels to go this way or that way. Usually kept it in a neutral position, but...
Well, they somehow would have to time that with the cylinder and the way it was going and get it in a certain position so that when you did activate that, it would make it go reverse instead of the way it was going.
Yeah, there's a lot of neat things that's been lost over time and how this stuff worked. And there's getting to be fewer and fewer steam engineers, you know, that can tell you a lot more about it than I can. But everything was dangerous. But like I said, 1906, it was rebuilt in 1926. The engine number was changed to 1023. And it was a big engine in 1906.
There's that other cylinder for this side. There's one on each side. All right, let's go ahead on up inside and look at where the engineer stands.
All righty.
See just how comfortable a job that was.
Oh, they had naturally everything was for the comfort of the employees.
Oh, absolutely.
It was a little harder to get in the engine than it is right now.
Yeah, that step up we saw on the other side, that's what the engineer would use, and the fireman. They would use this step up here. We've got the luxury of a ramp ladders that somebody built for you.
Yeah, and John Parsons is going to build us some metal ones that we won't be working on and worried about rotting away. Oh, here is where it happens. On the right side of the engine is where the engineer sits. He sits right here. Notice the upholstery on that board. And on the other side is where the fireman, the guy that controlled, he used to shovel coal out of this tender.
Well, I've decided that man carried a pad with him when he came to work.
Well, it's usually your coat.
Your coat was your pad.
And your dinner bucket went in here, underneath.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's a storage in there, huh?
Yeah, well, let me step in here and I'll
Oh, you can actually open that thing?
Oh, yeah. This one's got hinges on it.
Okay.
And you'd store whatever in there.
Well, there's quite a bit of room down in there. All right.
Nice soft, too. And the fireman controlled the flow of oil with these four knobs. There's 4 burners in there. And he could tell by the color of the smoke just how balanced his fire was.
And those gave him more fuel or less.
Yeah.
And water.
Right.
Was some...
Water's over here.
Water's over here.
And here's your sight glasses, which was real important. The fireman had
over
one.
Here as well.
The engineer had one. The fireman had one. And it's backed up by manual valves. See those 3 valves in a row? Those little petcocks on the bottom?
Sure.
If it didn't come out the bottom, you better be doing something quick.
Well, now, how did they blow these things up? Did they just let them run out of water or what? If
they ran low on water, and the old pressure cookers of, you know, the ladies that used to cook with them, they'd blow up too, but this is on a king size. I've seen pictures, literally the whole back of the engine is gone. Just pipes, you know.
So this is a big boiler. So it's just like the boiler accidents that they've had. We've got pictures of them that they happened around here. In the mines, boilers would blow up.
Oh yeah, a lot of the coal mines, and it was, the people, if they didn't get the education and didn't pay attention, they could really hurt themselves.
And this, you've told me, is where the reverse is. Which handle is reverse now?
Alrighty, let me get over here in your way.
Okay.
Right here is a reverser level. He'd notch this back to get the steam to reverse, to turn the wheels to make the engine go backwards. And when he wanted to go back the other way, he'd set this back. This is the throttle. This is the give it the gas.
All right.
You pull this back. You know, when they say notch her out, you can see the notches up there.
Take all you can get.
Yeah. And
it would come all the way back, though, I guess.
And that lever goes back to the steam dome, which opens.
And there's your gauges up there, too.
Oh, yeah. You had to keep close on. The big is the steam gauge. Those other ones shows you the air pressure that you have available to, to stop.
And there's another set of them on the other side for the firemen.
Yes. And all these were missing. All this stuff was taken. As it sat in the park, it was vandalized. All this wood you see was laying on the floor. There was no windows, there was no doors, there was no anything left. We replaced all this, got all this stuff put back in it. We put a security door on it, and we've not had any trouble with vandalism, and we're real proud of that. But can you imagine how hot it'd be sitting here on a hot summer day? No air conditioning.
Well, geez, that's real good. And there's also a whistle on there. And how did the whistle operate? With electric or what?
Steam. It was steam.
It was a steam whistle.
Yeah, right up there's a lever, and it went to that whistle that you see outside the cab. The other one, that other rope, rang the bell. The fireman kept that ringing. The later engines had a steam.
It still works, right?
Oh yeah, you can ring it. Let me go over here.
we got to have some music where we can get it.
Now, right here, these are sand boxes.
Okay.
And then when you hear the term sanding the flues, this had sand in it, and there was a scoop. And this thing had a real good draft. And every now and then, the fireman, he'd throw a scoopful in there, and what that'd do, it'd knock the soot and stuff off the pipes in there. But
way of cleaning the pipes, cleaning things, keep it going.
And the ladies along the line appreciated if they didn't do it when they had wash on the line.
Yeah.
But this is for the kids. And I can see when they finally made that steam operated, the firemen really, really enjoyed that. But
all right, Larry, you got anything else you need to cover here? Of course, this is the run by oil. We talked about that. It's run by a thick sort of tar.
Yeah, it's bunker C oil. And it used to be this area where these tanks are was full of coal. And you shovel the coal in. And back behind it, like there's the doghouse and the water, they put water in. These used more water than they did coal. So that's about every 50 miles they'd have a water tank. But they had to refill them.
And then this was switched over to a kind of oil.
Right.
And this fed the oil into this heater
right.
there. And you said there was a heat pipe of some sort put in the oil here?
Yes, steam. There's steam pipes inside these tanks. That, once it gets good and hot, it flows a lot easier.
Yeah, sure.
And then they suck it in here, put it up here, control the flow here, makes a fire, boils the water, goes up to the steam dome, down to the wheels. As simple as that.
All right, is that good enough for you? You think we got it?
Well, we probably want to come back and do it again, but
we'll remember what we forgot after we're done.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, folks. See you later. Thanks, Larry.
Toot toot.